Welcome, everybody, to the Gil Hodges podcast. I've got a special guest with me today. Her name is Debbie Lewis, and she's got a middle name that comes from her journey, and I want her to explain some of that. But today, just want to have the joy and the pleasure of introducing you to Debbie Lewis. So, Debbie, I'm not going to waste a lot of time trying to go through a bunch of things, but I know your middle name has a lot to do with your journey. Is that correct?
That's true. Yep.
Yeah. Well, why don't you go ahead and just share with everybody a little bit about what you do, number one, what you do right now, and a little bit, just a brief history. I want people to right up front be able to get an idea of who you are, and then go ahead and go into your story if you don't mind, because I think that would be wonderful.
Okay. Well, I'm currently a yoga teacher. And I teach Enneagram as well. And I did bring some show and tell. This my first book. I know it's backwards in here, but
no, it's good.
Which is about yoga and Enneagram. I'm about to write to publish another book. But anyway, I've been a yoga teacher for a long time, and then there's a lot of journey in that. And how I met Gil then is over the last few years, I was looking for my people. And trying to figure out how to navigate life, in bizarre times. And I found the Culpeppers and the land. And I began to camp out and, paint furniture and weed the garden and help out. And they let me stay there. So I'm whenever the weather is nice, I'm in my tent out there, communing with nature and, recovering from life. And so that's how we. And now I have a nice tent on a deck, and it's wonderful.
And it is very nice. I mean, because I know we've taken a few people over there to take a peek at your little sanctuary there, and it's so cozy. I mean, you got everything in there that you need. You've got a stove for heat and cooking, and your bed. It's a very cozy place, especially if you're into living in nature but having some of the conveniences that we all like to have.
It inspired you a little bit too. Yeah
It did.
Your tent. Way to go.
Yep.
So the reason I needed some retreat into nature, I'll tell you a little bit of my story. I'm the eldest of 5 kids. We were preachers' kids. So I grew up in the Methodist church, and I've always been very creative. So I've got a fully functioning right side of my brain. I paint, I play the flute, I make things, I do art, I sew, So, as I grew up, I knew it'd be something creative. And, I got a liberal arts degree that qualified me to pretty much wait tables. And so I ended up sewing for a living. In the 80s, I became a mother for one, and then had a sewing business. And the reason I tell you that is because now I'm back to that again. And why I need to come out to the land again. So let's see. My spiritual journey began kind of through college. And as a Methodist preacher's kid, my parents were pretty enlightened, so I wasn't rebelling from them per se. I just had questions. So, I read Emerson and Thoreau in college and became a transcendentalist, and then there was a Sufi family that lived in Hattiesburg at USM, and I became friends with them, and I became a Sufi. So Sufi, if you've never heard of that, they're the Persian mystics from Islam. They're not the fundamentalists. They're the persecuted mystics. So like Kabir, if you've ever read The Prophet, Khalil Gibran.
I haven't. No.
Who else? There's several poets, well-known poets. Think whirling dervishes. So my branch of the Sufi branch that I became acquainted with, he was told to bring the message of the beloved of the heart to the West. And it's a celebration of all the different faiths. And we would dance and sing and do in all languages. So I happen to know, dances and chants and songs, from Hebrew to Arabic to you know,
Yeah.
Hindu, Sanskrit.
Very cool.
Well, I mean, that's another choice, Sanskrit. Anyway, and about the same time, my philosophy professor chose me to go on a trip around the world for students to study world religions.
Wow.
So can you imagine,
pretty cool.
you know,
For how
hundreds
long?
of,
For how long?
all around the world. 2 months.
2 months. Okay. Wow.
2 months. And, you know, we went to all the hot spots, you know, Rome, Cairo, you know, several places in India. I mean, all the way across.
Wow.
So, you know, I came back with an Iranian boyfriend, and you know, anyway, it was quite a journey. So, and what that did for me is it made me realize that, you know, God is big,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with many
Isn't that
names, and we're
amazing?
all,
You know, it's a beautiful thing, I think, when we actually realize that how small we make God when we think that he only was able to reveal himself to a small group of people in the Middle East, you know, whatever group that might be, that we just would think that's all he can do. He can't really reveal himself to the Indians in America or anybody else. It's got to be just this little group, and they must be the right ones because they're the only ones that got the revelation. Like, that is so bizarre when you really are able to step out of that and realize, no, God's so much bigger and so much more loving. And I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So
and in this journey, I also did a lot of reading about, you know, everything from, you know, yoga people's take on it, and all about the Essenes, which was the spiritual community that reportedly Jesus or Yeshua, his name was part of, and how, you know, history gets rewritten by the by the powerful, as we've seen it happen lately. You know?
Yeah. You know, it makes it really hard to trust what we read anymore, or what we're even being told. And that's part of my journey right now is recognizing and waking up to the matrix that we really live in, and understanding that there's nothing that we can prove. And even the evidence that we have, there's usually a fair amount of evidence that shows something else. And it can really shake up a person's stability, you know, because most people, they fear the idea of not having stability. They want that certainty. And it's like, when you pull the veil back, there's not a lot of certainty there. And what does it do? Causes us to have to trust in God that he does have all this under control. So anyway, continue. I mean, what are some of the interesting things that you learned on your 2-month journey or since then?
Well, I'll tell you about my name too. So when you become a Sufi, you get a name, like, you know, like Catholics do, I guess. So at that time, I didn't know anything about yoga, but being creative, Sarasvati was the one that my teacher picked for me. Sarasvati. So there's triads in Hinduism. You got the creator element, the destroyer element, and the sustainer element. So so Sarasvati is a creator goddess. So she's got, like, you know, her arms are holding, you know, she's got the instrument and book and beads. And so she's the goddess of art, music, communication, and wisdom. And so, you know, it was just fitting that I got a Hindu name, and then I ended up finding out about yoga later. So how I got into yoga then was I was sewing for a living, as I am now, and all bent up over a sewing machine, and my back and neck was hurting. And somebody said, you should try yoga, you know? So I did. And it was just life-changing. And after several years, my teacher invited me to start teaching along with her. And so I learned the old-fashioned way under a teacher, you know. Basically, I parroted what she did the next day, you know, and I taught. And so I learned that way. And I always tell, I train teachers now, and I do want to talk about that. And I have to tell them, you know, I didn't do it this way. There were no teacher trainings least not in Mississippi,
Uh-huh.
when I was, and I had small children. I couldn't just go off to California or whatever. So
Right.
I learned that way and loved it. And then gradually began to kind of sort through different styles of yoga because the direction she was going wasn't working for me. And I love her dearly, but I began to look at what other kinds of yoga there are, and there are a lot of different styles of yoga. So I always tell
Yeah.
people, if they say, "Well, I really didn't like yoga," I'm like, "Well, you just didn't find yours,"
Right.
because
Yeah.
um, and I know you talked to Sam about yoga recently, Samantha, and
Right.
so yeah, and that was awesome, by the way. Thanks,
Yeah. Yeah. So she
Samantha.
was on here a few weeks ago, and so now
Yeah,
it's your opportunity. But okay, so
that was one thing.
okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, one thing that I don't think she mentioned that I did want to bring up is that um, I think it's really important to kind of hold to the roots of yoga, because what's happened in this country anyway is that people want to keep everything in their little boxes. And they do the church for their faith, they do this for, they do yoga for exercise and to feel good. And what yoga means is union. It's a connection of mind, body, spirit practice. It is a meditative practice, and the
Yeah.
byproduct of it is you do get more flexible and you get stronger and you get more balanced. But so it's based on the 8 limbs. And so I did want to bring that up and share with
Okay.
you that I really emphasize the 8 limbs of yoga when I teach. And it's, I've had some hard learning experiences in the yoga business I can tell you about too, that really reaffirmed my commitment to teach the 8 limbs. So what
Okay.
the 8 limbs are, you've got the do's and the don'ts, kind of like the 10 commandments. You've got five do nots, like do not harm, do not steal, do not, like that.
Yeah.
And then you've got 5 do's, like lifestyle things like cleanliness, contentment, non-attachment, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
One of the do's is that faith is important. And I think that's what makes yoga such a wonderful toolbox for anybody from any tradition, because it's Ishvara Pranadhana, which means have faith in higher power,
Oh,
but it doesn't dictate how, kind of like AA,
yeah.
it doesn't dictate how at all. And so, and
Yeah.
an interesting thing to note that even in Hinduism, they believe in one God. They just
Mm-hmm.
have different deities that represent aspects. So if you want to
Okay.
think about the power and the strength of God, well, an elephant, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, so Ganesh is the elephant, half elephant, half man, which represents the strength and power and removing obstacles and that aspect of God. But ultimately, even Hindus believe in one,
One God.
creator force. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So a little detour there. So
Yeah.
anyway, so you get the do's and the don'ts. That's 1 and 2. And then you've got the postures. Then you've got pranayama, which is breathing techniques. And that's not taught that much. And I love to teach pranayama because it's like having a medicine cabinet inside you,
And is it just one type of breathing, or is it multiple types?
many,
Okay.
many different kinds.
All right.
You can vary the speed. You can lengthen the inhale or lengthen the exhale or break it up in parts.
Okay.
You can hold your breath on inhale or exhale. You can alternate sides.
Okay. Yeah. Done some of that.
So
Yeah.
it's a science. It's a science, and you can breathe fast or slow.
Mm-hmm.
Kundalini yoga is all about breathing, the faster breathing, and what that does for you. So
Yeah. Okay.
so that's the first 4 things are all things that you do, and then the last 4 things are all steps into that meditative state, withdrawing the senses, concentrating, and then that's the state of meditation. And the last step of the 8 limb path is bliss, or I like to say joy flow, because I named my yoga joy flow.
Okay. So what is it again? L-
The last of the 8 limbs is bliss.
Bliss. Okay. Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
in one or two or three words, go through all 8 of them again. Just want to make sure everybody got them.
I can give them to you in Sanskrit, but I'm giving them to you in English, so I'm not speaking too much Sanskrit. There's the do's and the don'ts.
Okay, that's 1 and 2.
The yamas and the niyamas, 1 and 2.
So number
and
1
there's
there are the
postures.
do nots, and the second one is the do's, and the third one is posture.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth one is breathing.
Mm-hmm.
What's the fifth one?
Mm-hmm. Then you got withdrawing the senses.
And what does that mean?
Constant. Whenever you kind of in sports and art, you call it getting in the zone.
Okay.
It's when you're totally focused. Think Karate Kid, where Miyagi, the master, he seems like he's not paying any attention, and then he catches the fly with his chopsticks, whatever. It's your senses are pulled in.
Okay.
And you're totally, you're not. You may hear something out there, but you're not reacting to it.
Okay. Okay. All right. So withdrawing the senses, and then 6.
Concentration, where you hold your attention on one thing.
Okay. And 7.
And then it's kind of like steps along the way as you learn how to hold your attention to one thing, because the mind, we call it monkey mind. The mind tends to wander, right? It's always wandering about, doing its spirals. And so when you hold your attention to one thing, and that leads to a state of meditation, which is the 7th. And that ultimately results in a state where you're suspended, your monkey mind has stalled, and you begin to connect to the energy that you are.
Yeah.
And like Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within you, and that's what he's referring to. Yeah. And
very good. Very good. So just to make sure I got them right. Number 1, the 5 do's. Number 2, or excuse me, the 5 do nots. And then the number 2 is the 5 do's. 3 is the posture. 4 is breathing. 5 is withdrawing senses. 6 is concentration. 7 is meditation. And 8 is bliss.
Yep, that's it. And that is why doing yoga with goats does not make any sense to me.
Yoga with goats?
In a brewery.
Oh,
right. That's the hip thing, and that's why good yogis from India think that the West has just misappropriated this profound wisdom, and and that's well, let's see. Let me back up and just say that I had about 30 years of owning a studio. I branched off from my teacher gradually and began to teach and built a studio that grew and grew and grew until it was like really stressful, high overhead. I had like 15 teachers teaching with me. And kind of what happened was a kind of a mutiny, basically. The yoga became hotter and faster and louder, and just, all about how good you look in your Lululemon pants and anyway, I kind of got bullied into just losing track, and I ended up closing the studio and trying to figure out what to do with myself. I did continue to do teacher training though. I've been doing a teacher training ever since 2001, I think. Yeah. So it's about 25 years now. Each year I've done, and some of them have been on Zoom, and some of them have been in my house since having a studio, and I love mentoring teachers. So
that's your favorite thing to do.
We wanted to talk about that. Yeah, yes, I absolutely love it. And I'm about to start one in Natchez. A lady who attended my teacher training here in Jackson, she drove all the way from Natchez, and she opened up a yoga studio in Natchez that is doing very well, and she needed help. It is right on the Mississippi River.
Oh, okay.
It's a little town right on the Mississippi River, south of Vicksburg.
Okay.
So if you know where Vicksburg,
so quite a ways away from you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to drive.
Okay, so Now, I know somebody had said that, I don't know if this is an exaggeration or if you kind of resonate with this, but that you're kind of responsible for bringing yoga to Mississippi.
Well, I would say my teacher was maybe
Okay.
because
Okay.
several of her students, including me, branched off from her. But
Okay.
maybe, yeah. Since I've
You did a
trained a
lot.
lot of the people that are teaching now around Mississippi, and I moved my studio several times and over the course of 30 years. So maybe,
Wow.
yeah,
All right. So that's very cool.
yep.
All right. So tell me a little bit more about your journey inward. Because there's been times where I know you've been over at your tent at a fire somewhere, and you've just sent a little video of you just having your evening devotion time, quiet time, meditation time, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, it's been very, very interesting. I've enjoyed seeing those and listening to those. So what is your current journey? What's it like when you're on your own?
Well, I'm an introvert anyway. So when they said
Okay.
shelter in place, well, and then, I lost my studio several years before COVID happened. So I was already kind of trying to figure out, you know, at that time I had sort of lost my faith in myself and my faith in people, my faith in God, I was kind of my dad died during that time.
Hmm.
And then my mother died during COVID, so it was not because of COVID or anything, but it was kind of, so I've had about 9 years of kind of,
Challenges.
challenges. Yeah. I'm tethering. I was thinking, yeah, of trying to kind of, figure out life again. And, so when I found the Culpeppers and, it kind of became my family. Now I am very close to my siblings, so we're very close, but, my kids are grown. I don't have hardly any students anymore. And, I went back to sewing for a living, which hurts all over, man. I haven't learned how to breathe and sew at the same time. So when I go out to the land, I feel free. I don't feel, my husband's not here. I don't feel that comfortable chanting in front of my husband. Let's say he doesn't get, he's wonderful, but we don't share anything together. We're very different. and the reason it works, we let each other be different. So, but going out to camp or going out in nature allows me to reconnect to myself and have that time to chant, sing freely. I take only what I'm going to eat and drink, so I'm not surrounded by anything that my willpower slips up on. And
yeah. Wow. Well, so if if you had a group of people in front of you, what do you feel like would be one of the most important things that you would share with them in terms of a spiritual journey? Because so many people are locked into their one particular belief system. They don't see anything else. It's as if they've got blinders on. And many of them are taught and told that their religion is the only way and everybody else is wrong. And there's going to be consequences because they chose the wrong path. Even though, anyway, I'll stop there. There's a lot more I could say, but what would you tell people?
Let's see. I think the bottom line is God accesses you through inwardly. And so it's our intuition and our heart that it's there that we're able to receive that experience of connecting to God, higher power, whatever. And a lot of people kind of have been injured by the word God, so I like to say source or beloved. You say father, sometimes I say mother,
Mm-hmm. Universe.
So,
Yeah.
So by whatever name, it's the experience inward, and to be able to access inwardly, you got to kind of shut up,
Yeah.
and
Right.
so notice,
Still.
sit down,
Yeah.
shut up. By the way, I'm wearing a shirt that's got Buddha on it, and Buddha.
Okay.
That was Buddha's big thing: is sit down and shut up. Get
Yeah.
quiet, and just feel the energy that you're made of, because we are all made of that same divine energy.
Yeah.
And this is just the shell that holds that. This body this meat suit that we're in.
Right. Right.
So when you get quiet and you access that connection, that's the bliss.
Mm-hmm. It is, and I started that journey myself, well, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, just in being quiet and listening. And I began to realize I'm starting to get these downloads. In fact, I got them way before that, but I just realized how important they were, and to trust them more. And to actually, I journal them and go in depth to, what was coming through. And what I began to realize is I was getting a lot of information through this channel of allowing God to speak to me, that people were writing in books or doing videos on YouTube about. And I wasn't watching anything. I felt God told me many, many years ago, stop watching stuff, stop reading stuff, and just listen to me. And as I did that, and I would continue to write and share things, people would say, oh, so-and-so is teaching that, or and it was all confirmation and affirmation. And I am a firm believer. I don't have any corner on the market, neither does anybody else, that any of us that want to take the time to shut up and listen, shut up and sit down and listen, that same information is available to any and all of us. And that when we, are willing and able to stop and be still and listen, that, God knows you, he knows how and why he created you, and that you are here. I do believe that we're here for, a specific purpose. We can miss it sometimes, but I think God, for the most part, he weaves his way through things and gets us on track most of the time when we're willing to listen. But just to be able to be there and listen, and he will give you what you're supposed to have that you're going to share with the world. And another piece of that is that when we do this, when we are receiving this information to share with the world, we have to learn to do it from our particular place of being, to where I am just being myself and I'm being authentic. I'm not trying to look like somebody else. I'm not trying to be somebody else. I'm not trying to measure up to what the world has told me I need to measure up to. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just like, here it is. This is what I got.
Yeah.
It is. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful life and beautiful journey when we can do that.
And all the major religions and spiritual movements all started this way, with somebody listening.
That is right. Yes. That is interesting. Yes, it's very true. As I just go through and look at all the great major spiritual leaders, it's like, yeah, so true. Yeah.
And then it gets bogged down in, belief systems and ego and it gets organized.
Yes. Well, the analogy that I use is when something comes together and it has life on it, it's an organism. It's a living organism. So it's an organism, and it can be somewhat of an organization, but it's still this living, breathing thing that has life on its own. But when we start operating in fear and we start saying, oh, they're getting out of the guidelines for this, we need to now draw more lines and make more rules and more regulations. And then it shifts from being an organization that is alive and well to an institution that is dead. And unfortunately, most religious systems have become institutions that are dead. And what we need to return back to.
And Jesus said, follow me and do what I'm doing,
Right. Exactly. It's like, hey, so many people, so many religious leaders have. Yeah, so many religious leaders have, basically said this, that same thing. It's like, follow me, just do what I'm doing. This is working. It's like, as if this is working for me, you can try it too. And if it works, great. If not, keep just being still and listening, and you will find the path that God has for you. And, me personally, I've still chosen to, believe in Father, Son, Holy Spirit, that Christian realm, but it's not even Christian anymore. I don't even like, the idea of trying to be put in that box anymore. It's just an understanding of who God is that is really, really powerful and life-giving. And I'm sure other people find life in their way of believing. And the fact is, why can't we just love one another and allow each other to do what works for them? And then when we're in that space, we can listen to each other and learn from them. And hopefully they learn from us. And it's just a beautiful world.
Absolutely. And that's, in the Sufi practices, when we do a chant in a different language, it helps you kind of feel the heart of somebody from that culture, and sometimes it's interpreted a little differently, like the zikr, which is the Islamic primary chant, kind of like Om is for yogis, they interpret it, it's La ilaha illallahu, which is sometimes interpreted there's no other God but Allah, but we Sufis interpret it as there's nothing but God.
Okay. Yeah. And that's, I would be, that resonates with me.
Yeah.
It's like God is everywhere and in everything. Now, I know some people are going to listen to this and they say, well, that's pantheism. It's like, okay. My thing right now is I'm writing a book called Breaking the Matrix, and it's all about recognizing and realizing all the programming that we have been put under, that has been given to us, and how it has been given to us with this label of either good or bad, right or wrong. And most of the time we just accept that because it's probably come from people we respected that are in authority and have influence. Right. And so we just accept it. But I'm realizing we are doing ourselves a major, major disservice to the human race when we don't question everything. Now, it doesn't mean we throw everything out, but if we can't question it, number one, that's a massive red flag of a cult. You can't question it.
Yep. If the teacher says, trust me, not yourself, run.
Exactly. And yet there's so much of that in a lot of different religions. I'm going to stop specifying certain religions anymore because it's really happening.
Well, in the yoga tradition too, there's a lot of things coming to light that of abuse and ego driven stuff. And so I don't want to throw out the whole message, because of these things that we've discovered about some of these great yoga masters,
Yes. Yeah.
Same as religious people, it's like,
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I'm wanting to do with my online community as well as my physical community is just get to a place where we bring the best of the best. And what that means is every religion is welcome. And what we're looking for is the best that religion has to offer. That is going to be based around love. That's one thing when I look at any and every great spiritual leader, teacher, almost every single one of them, the main powerful message, or at least a big part of their powerful message, was love. And so that's one thing, I teach to question everything and let go of everything. Let go of everything. Even the idea that we're here to learn to love, or that we're, love is the biggest, greatest power. Let it go. Because if it's true, it will come back. And those things that are true, you can pick them back up and you can walk with them knowing that, okay, this is real. This is good, versus holding on to everything and being afraid to let it go.
A lot of times we have to play out. A lot of times we have to play out not love to know what love is.
That is true too. Yeah. And, and that's going to freak a lot of people out, but it's it's understanding contrast, and that, sometimes you need to figure out what you don't like or don't want in order to understand what you really do like and do want.
And that's an individual level and global level, societal level. And we're in graduate school right now.
We are, And I have to keep reminding myself, though, I'm in a bubble. You and I and many of us, we're in a bubble. We're in a bubble that is moving down this road, and because of algorithms on internet and just the power of the resonant frequency that draws us together, we tend to find more people like ourselves. But I think the bigger reality is that most of the world is not where we're at. And but as we continue this journey and we keep sharing the heart of love and the message of love, that more and more people are going to start moving this direction. And then I do believe that there will be a major shift. And that's been predicted by a lot of different religions over the last few years, that this is where we're moving to this new level of understanding. And some would call it heaven on earth, some would call it the new earth, some would call it the fifth dimensions, all kinds of different names that people are giving it. But it's like, people, do you see what's happening? This is happening kind of across the board. So get excited. Right. There is something coming. Get excited and get on board. It's cool.
I changed the name of my new book that I'm about to publish. I'm calling it Joy Flow Yoga, or Flowing in Joy in the New Earth. And I added a whole nother section that shouldn't be controversial at all, but it kind of is right now, like getting sunshine, vitamin D, stuff like that. The last chapter is about lifestyle choices.
That's good. That's, well, why don't you tell a little bit about your book?
Well, it's basically my teacher training manual that has been growing for 25 years. I recently redid it and made it more of a guide for people, any yoga person who wants to learn yoga. It's still my teacher training manual, but now it's going to be published for anybody. So I expanded it to include lots of things like yoga, like hands-on healing, Reiki, things about the 5D awareness, and what else I would say? Basically, all I have to do is draw my little stick figures and put some photos in, and then I'm going to publish it.
So what would be, what are 2 or 3 things out of the book that you're most excited about that you dive into?
Well, the last section, I'm really excited about that. What I did basically is, I'm going through the chakras. So let's see. Did y'all talk about chakras before? So
a little bit.
Basically, we have energy centers in our body,
right?
And so each one is connected with an element. So root chakra is earth. It's grounded. And that's the base of our spine. And so that's the first chapter then is about how often do you take your shoes off and go walk on ground? Yeah. How often do you do that? That's why going to the beach feels so good, right?
Yeah.
But if we did that every day, how would your life change?
And let me just say this is one of the things that it's big here at the land, period. But I just had a weekend where I had some people here working, and we cleared off and made probably 4 or 5 new paths. And for me, the desire is to get the grounds in such a way that it'd be safe for people to walk barefoot, and that there'd be stations along the way to sit, and there might be 2 or 3 quotes from Jesus and Buddha and Confucius, or anybody, just to sit.
I love that.
Just to sit and meditate. Yay. And then walk to the next one, and just have a journey out of a walk and meditation. Yeah. So we're working on it.
There was a retreat place in Florida that they have horses, but they did that, and they have a little bench. And it's like each place looks like the chakra. It's like the throat chakra. It's like it's like going through a
interesting
palace, or something. And so that can be done. I'm excited. I'll come help.
Yeah. Well, next time you're here, come check it out. Yeah. Very cool. We'll keep going.
So that's, the first is the root. And I talk about different breathing techniques that will help you get grounded, different postures to do if you're going to do a 10-minute yoga practice to get grounded. And then second chakra is water, and that's your middle of your abdomen. And, might do a little belly dancing, move it. And what kind of water do you drink? Do you drink enough water? Do you get in good water? Do you?
Yeah.
And we have a new hot tub on the land now, right?
Yeah, we do.
You're gonna have to talk me into the cold water part, but anyway, so then we've got fire. Fire is your stomach area, your solar plexus. So I talk about the food you eat and your digestive system, and the element of fire to transform inner fire, actual fire, the power of the sun again. So anyway, that's and I go all the way up until we're talking about 5D, vibrational energy healing and stuff like that. So that's when it gets like, okay, if I keep going on this book will never get done because there's so much more to learn and know. So at some point I just have to say this is just a start.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's been the case with, when I wrote my book Choice, I thought I really felt like this is my legacy. And then I moved into doing the inner circles that were based off of the book Choice, where people would come and we would discuss different portions of the book. And it just became very, very evident. That book is just the tip of the iceberg. And
that's kind of what, when I first started doing this, I was like, this is my opus. This is the my statement of my years as a yoga teacher, right? But now I'm kind of like, okay, this is the doorway to what's coming next.
I think there's going to be more people interested in understanding the chakras better. Would you be? I want to do this for the behind the scenes, the deeper dive. Would you be willing to go deep into the chakras and just share a little bit on each one and what they, because I know that each one kind of has an effect on different body parts and so forth. And so if you would be willing to do that, let's do that for the deeper dive. And I do want to add one other thing because we are running out of time. Well, I guess we got more time than I thought. I said we're at
Enneagram too. I want to mention Enneagram.
Okay. Well, let's do that as well. But I just want to say that anybody who's watching this, Debbie will be on the Sunday gathering that comes the Sunday after whenever this airs, which I can't put a date on it right now because I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, just know that if you're watching this and it's live or it just came out, if it hasn't come to Sunday yet, then join us Sunday morning on the gathering. And you can join us live through Zoom, and Debbie's going to be there. She'll be sharing and answering questions, and it'll be a really good time. I'm looking forward to that. So just wanted to get all that out of the way. So you want to do the Enneagram right now? You want to talk about that right now, or you want to save it for the behind the scenes? Yeah,
I'll just mention it because that's I love teaching that too. I studied with some wonderful teachers that have written lots of books, and Don Riso and Russ Hudson. And so the Enneagram is another way to understand yourself, basically. And how that relates to the chakras is when my teachers were like, how we get it's all about our inner motivations that drive us, our fears, our anxieties, our identification with other things that aren't who we really are, that get us, that drive our personalities. And the Enneagram points to 9 different ones. And so my teachers were saying that to get in balance, we need to balance our centers of intelligence, our head, our heart, and our gut. And I'm like, oh, we're talking chakras. And so basically what my book then is, what kind of yoga, what kind of balance do you need to balance your personality?
Yeah.
According to the Enneagram. So using yoga and Enneagram together is really useful. So for me, for example, I'm a 4, the creative one, the individualist is the 4 on the Enneagram. And this has nothing to do with like 4 numerology or anything. It's just a designation. And what I tend to do is live from my heart. I make decisions from my heart, not from my brain. So later on, I'm kind of like, what was that about? And I forget I have a body. So yoga is very, very good for me. Getting grounded and getting in my body, going out to my tent, getting in nature is grounding and keeps me from floating out, into chaos.
Yeah.
And so other people tend to lock down their heart when they're stressed, and other people tend to uh, have more monkey mind anxiety than usual,
Yeah.
more. And so meditation's their thing. And my meditation needs to be active and grounded.
Uh-huh.
So, it's kind of like, what do you need to find that balance?
Right. Yeah. And then there's so many different types of meditations, and some, I don't know where meditation actually came from or comes from, or how people learn it or go about it. But, I do meditations, and I'm actually putting a bunch of meditations together just because I kind of slipped into it. I was doing it for myself, and then I thought, well, let me do it out loud, because all I'm doing is I'm listening for what I'm getting from God, the universe, and I'm just sharing that. No meditation is ever the same. I don't even control it to say, hey, we've been talking about this subject, so we're going to just do a meditation on this subject. I don't do that. I just go into the meditation. Now, oftentimes it will be on that subject, but it's just a matter of, some would call it channeling, but I'm just connecting with God. I'm connecting with the universe, and I'm just listening, and I'm sharing those things that are coming through. And it's blessed me tremendously, and apparently has blessed a lot of other people. So actually putting many of those into a space and a place on the internet so people can get to them. So that's going to be coming out soon. But do you know where does meditation actually come from? Do you know? Were you taught that in your 2-month journey, or?
I think it's just inherent in our nature. If nature meditates, my cat meditates, it's inherent in us. I think, life is
contemplation.
Part of life. And what I love about the yoga tradition, I've done some Buddhist mindfulness, which was really hard, but what yoga offers so many different ways to meditate. And the idea is just focus on one thing, any one thing. And you could focus on the tip of your pencil or something. But if you make that one thing profound, then you're also taking in the energy of that. So if it's it's something of nature or a divine spirit, divine something that has meaning to you.
Well, and then, from my tradition, the Bible talks about, meditate on the word of God, so that's a very valid thing. And so, that makes a lot of sense. But
and so in the yoga tradition, the main one is Om, which just means the vibration, sound, and spirit of everything.
Okay. So now you said that mindfulness that you practiced in the Buddhist tradition was challenging. Why was that challenging above and beyond any other meditation? I'm unfamiliar with it, so I don't know.
And this is just for me, and also I guess I hear this from other people about how challenging it is to sit and watch your thoughts go by, and they just keep going by and going by. But now I connect to my breath or a word. And when I keep my mind on that breath with a word, maybe, and it can be in English, it's called a mantra. And so the value of doing it in another language, though, is it sort of bypasses your thinking mind, and you can kind of get into the energy of it, So
that's interesting, because I've always wondered. I'm like, why do it in another? What does it mean in English? Why do it in another language? Let's do it in English. That's been my thing. But that makes good sense when you say it that way. Bypass.
When I do lead meditation, a chant, and teach a chant. I do like to let people know what they're doing. Because
and I appreciate that.
You don't want to be singing something that you don't agree with.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I appreciate that a lot. But that mindfulness, again, it seems like I do a lot of that in my meditations, is, or at least teach and share with people. Just, if the thoughts come, just acknowledge them, and then let them go, let them pass. It's a spiritual aikido or judo, just letting those thoughts and things and let them come. But instead of grabbing onto them and pulling them inside and then holding on to them, it's just recognize them and let them go on. Yeah.
And you're cultivating your ability to step back and watch, and you're going, okay, who is this that's watching that thought?
Yeah.
Right. Who is the watcher? And that's getting you closer to who you really are.
It's really
the observer.
Good. Really good.
Awareness.
Stepping back and being the observer. Tell me more about that.
Well, as you begin to really notice how many thoughts are spinning through your head that are repetitive, perhaps even negative, and you begin to identify them as thoughts in your head. It's kind of like your brain is software.
Yeah.
And it's stuck in loops. And I know you go into this with the whole untethering practices. When you begin to identify how that's clouding your perceptions.
Yeah.
And when you see that for what it is, you're free of you have choice. That's another good word there.
It is. So I do a lot of meditating and when I run, I go for runs, jogs, and sometimes on my longer ones, I might be running for an hour or two. And it just is great meditation time. And one of them that I was on, it was one of those revelation ones. And I get a lot of revelations when I'm running, but I was just recognizing this whole thing of, the mindfulness and being able to step out and observe. And as I'm observing myself, number one, putting it, into the, the Christian paradigm is like, wait a minute, I'm going to step out of myself and I'm going to go sit with Father, Son, and Holy Spirit up in a heavenly realm from that perspective. And I'm going to look down at me doing what I'm doing. And there I am, just running along. I'm having these thoughts. I'm just running along, having these thoughts. And then, then I start to look out a little further and look at some of those problems and challenges that I'm facing. It's like, some of it sucks. But I'm living a life. I am living a life. And that is cool. Even when it sucks, it's still cool when you can observe it from that place where you're outside of all the mess and you can just look down. I call it in my book, the eternal perspective. You're in a totally different place and you're looking down over everything, realizing that whatever's going on in the moment, it's only a moment. It's not going to last forever. And you're learning from it. The challenges, you're growing from it. And it was just a beautiful perspective just to catch all that. And then I'm trying to remember where else it went, because it went down a road where I started questioning things like, okay, if I take away, this is what it was. It's like, if I take away my senses, I'm running along right now, I can see where I'm going. I take those away. All right. Take away my hearing. Take away my smell, take away my touch, take away my taste. When you take away your senses, do you exist anymore? Because you have no way to connect into this realm, none whatsoever, when all your senses are gone, all of them.
Have you ever been in one of those pods? What is it called?
I have.
Sensory deprivation things. There's
sensory deprivation tanks. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's one in Jackson, and I've done it frequently. And I know how to meditate, but I did have a panic attack the first time. It's kind of like a silent retreat on speed.
Steroid.
Steroids. You start hearing your heartbeat louder, and you're like, wow, it really does force you to.
But it's like
assess who you are.
It's like you were saying. It's like, well, who's listening to the conversation? Who's involved in the conversation when you take yourself out and you just simply observe? It's like, there you are, there I am, just running along, and I'm having these thoughts. It's like, well, that's me looking at me having the thoughts. Well, what if I just take all my senses out of the picture, where I can't sense or feel anything, nothing, can't sense or feel a heartbeat, do I even exist? And if that's the case, it puts a very pondering question into the mix of, where do you go from there?
You stepped out of the matrix.
You stepped out of the matrix, out of this matrix, and see that just goes into a whole nother thing where I have come to believe, just from experiences and encounters in the spiritual realm, that this universe is just one of infinite universes, where the other universes, the laws of and physics of this realm, the senses, the touch, have nothing to do with the other realms. We would not be able to even come close to wrapping our brain around what it would mean to exist in another universe, and just that we exist beyond that. And yet we want to put ourselves in these boxes, and we kind of have to exist here in this realm. But when you start stepping back and getting out of that box, whoa, it just is really freeing, and puts everything into a perspective of realizing, you know what, I'm only here for a season. Now some people believe in reincarnation and other things, but I feel for myself that when I'm done, I'm going to move on to an entirely different universe to experience something else totally different. And anyway, it's
this
trippy.
Is one of the things I love. Any of it. Now that I'm sewing a lot, I'm listening to lots of podcasts, and I'm listening to lots of stuff along these lines, near-death experiences, people's memories from, and what the overriding story is that in between our lives, and I do think reincarnation makes sense, although I don't remember, so I have no idea. But the idea is that we're met with love. In whatever form it takes, whatever our belief system was, we're met with love. We have a chance to review what we did and what we chose to do and how did it go. We have the choice to hang around and have a spa day or whatever. There's no day there, but and we have the choice to come back and do something else. And that begs the question: why do we choose hard things?
Well, for me, in my book, I touch on that, and I believe that we're here to learn to love, and the challenges that we have here are for that specific purpose. It's like in a kingdom of light, where there ideally are no dark challenges. Well, you're only going to grow so much. But when you put yourself into a position, a place, a realm where now you're hammered with darkness nearly every day, and you have to choose love in those situations, that's hard. What do you think you're going to grow out of that? You're going to grow a ton. You're going to grow a lot. And that's why I believe we're here.
And when you look at this is just a blip on the screen of the whole journey, you're able to really see that perspective easier.
Yeah. It makes the whole thing to me a lot more beautiful. And I also then recognize I'm here to live and experience the best of life that I can, the lows and the highs, to experience them and not try to dodge them. To me, that's integrity. God sent me here to have this experience, and every experience that I'm having, me, the pen, it is an experience that God is having, because he is in everything. I mean, nothing would exist that if it weren't in him. Anything outside of him does not exist. When we take that into perspective and realize that he is getting an upload of my life, your life, this experience, he's getting an upload of what it's like to be any and all of this.
And we're all connected.
And I want to do my best to give him the experience that I came here to give him, as well as myself. And so I don't want to dodge any of it. I want to experience it, and I want to experience it well and to the fullest.
It's not happening to you, it's happening for you.
Amen. All right, we're about out of time. Why don't you give some information to everybody of where they can find you and get in touch with you?
On Facebook, I'm Debbie Sarasvati Lewis. That's why I gave you my whole name. Okay. Joyflowyoga.com is my website. And on that website, there's an introduction to Enneagram. There's information about teacher trainings, kind of my background. And let's see, I guess that's,
Okay. Well, and then
don't answer my phone. So, if you want to reach me, I can give you my phone number and you can text me, because I don't answer my phone anymore.
Okay. So, and I'll have all this in the notes when this show airs. So just make sure you get that information to me, and I'll put it there in the notes as well. So we're going to do the deeper dive next. So if anybody's watching this and you want to learn more about the chakras, we're going to dive into that a little bit. And how long have you been doing the chakras or studying them and so forth? How long have you been doing that?
Well, it's basically part of yoga. So from the beginning of yoga, I guess. But I've also studied Carolyn May's. My mother does healing touch, which is like Reiki and works with the chakras, or that she did. So I don't know when it started, but yeah.
Okay, so a long time. So you got a lot to share in that area. So, and not that we're going to cover all that, but we're going to definitely dive in a little bit on the deeper dive. And if you want to see that, if you're watching this, go to kingdomtalksmedia.com and sign up to be a member there. Help support this ministry and be a partner. Help us to continue this and to get the word out to more people. So bless you all. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to have you on the show. And I look forward to the deeper dive. So, all right. Well, blessings, and we'll see you all next time. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you again, Debbie. All right. Love you all. Take care. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.